friends. So today I am going to share with you the full version of our birth story. Kayleigh and I. Really is a team effort, but we did it, and overall it was a lot better than my first birth story. So let's dive in. So first, let's talk a little bit about my birth plan going into this labor and delivery. If you know anything about my first birth with my son Roy, it was very traumatic for the both of us. We obviously are both okay now, but I kind of wanted a different strategy going into this birth of our daughter. One, we hired a doula, so that was very helpful for both my husband and I. And we also made a birth plan or birth preferences sheet that we brought to the hospital with us. So I think we were kind of setting ourselves up for a little bit more success than maybe last time. If you haven't heard about my first birth story, I go in depth with that one as well on an Instagram Live, so you can find that on my Instagram page. I'm not going to talk through that one here. That's in the past. This is a new story. So I was always going to do a hospital birth. I did with Rory, and I basically would have died if I didn't. So I'm not like uncomfortable in hospitals or anything. So I knew I was going to do a hospital birth. And also I had tested positive for group B strep week 36 or 7. So I needed to get antibiotics through an IV before my delivery this time. So anyways, hospital birth, that was always my plan. My plan was also to just go unmedicated as long as I could. Last time I kind of had a lot of different drugs in my system for a lot of different reasons. But this time I was like, hey, let's just try it. I don't want to be induced. Did all the induction methods last time. I didn't want to be induced. And I said, let's try to go unmedicated as long as possible. I'm not anti-epidural. I was just like, let's see where this goes. So this was the plan that my doula, Ryan, and I talked through, and we were gonna work through together at the hospital. So mostly I really just wanted to feel more present and in control and just kind of aware of everything that was happening with this labor and delivery. And I will say it was a success. That is what happened this time, and I am very happy with my overall experience. So I think this story really starts around my 40-week appointment. So pretty much on my due date, I had an appointment, which I was really upset that I actually got to 40 weeks. I had Rory at 37 weeks. I was hoping maybe I would go a little early. Was not the case. Totally fine, but I was just very over being pregnant. So I go to my 40-week appointment, and I had a membrane sweep there. Hurts a little bit, but it's literally like 5 to 10 seconds long. So not a big deal. And I really think that is what kickstarted my labor. I had tried other ways to induce labor, pretty much week 39 to 40. Not assuming that any of them would really work or be the number one thing that did it, but you know, I was drinking red raspberry leaf tea, I was still exercising, I was curb walking up and down our street, tried nipple stimulation, got a prenatal massage with pressure points to hopefully induce labor. You know, I tried all of the things. I don't think anything really induced labor besides probably that membrane sweep, because I got it at 4 p.m. on the day of my due date, and then literally 24 hours later, 4 p.m. the next day, my water broke. So after I got the membrane sweep at my appointment, I did the mile circuit that night, which is basically you just hang out in 3 different positions for a really long time, just to kind of get the baby in the right position for labor. So I did it a shortened version that evening, and then the next morning I did the full 90 minutes of the mile circuit. And I was just trying to be a little bit more low key in case labor was starting. I wanted to save up my energy. So the water breaking story is probably the best part of this whole story. So the next day, Rory goes to daycare, and Ryan and I are both gonna go pick him up together because we are gonna do like a little family date, hopefully maybe the last one. So we're going to pick him up together. Ryan wants to stop on the way to take his car to the car wash. He has a brand new electric vehicle that he loves. So he washes it frequently. We went to the car wash. It's like he does the whole interior and exterior, whatever, it takes his time. And as soon as he got done, he gets in the car and I'm like, because you cleaned your car like that, my water's gonna break in here. So we drive like the next 6-7 minutes to his daycare. As soon as we get there, we park, I step 1 foot out of the car, water broke. It was like, I feel like I just aggressively peed myself, but I know that I did not have that much pee in my bladder because I peed just before we left the house. So I was like, oh boy, this is something different. So I kind of shuffle my way into the daycare and like sneak into the bathroom right away. I sit on the toilet and like more just keeps coming out. So I'm trying to like wipe up my legs, clean up myself as best I can. It looks like I literally just peed my shorts. So I told Ryan, I'm gonna wait in the car, you get the child. So I went back to his car. Luckily, he had a bunch of towels in there. So I like sat on the towels in his nice, clean, brand new car. He got Rory, we drove home. I took a shower and felt a little bit better. But the water just still keeps like trickling out the whole time. It's not like, oh, my water broke, one and done. It's like more and more and more. So luckily I have a bunch of postpartum diapers at home. So I just am wearing them Thursday evening. Just change them as I need, but thank God, have some postpartum diapers nearby in case your water breaks early. So we probably get home around 4:30. I get myself cleaned up, showered, but contractions haven't started. So I'm like, okay, now what? Like, when are these contractions gonna start? What do I do in the meantime? I'm just trying to rest again, conserve my energy. My parents come over to pick up Rory because they're gonna watch him while we are at the hospital. So we all kind of met at our house 4:35 after daycare pickup. And then Rory went back to JoJo and Pop's house where he's totally happy. But again, I'm just sitting there waiting for contractions. Nothing's happening yet. I started to get a little anxious because you really want labor to start within a certain time frame after your water breaks, because then they talk about a risk of infection. And because I have the Group B strep, I'm also worried about that because I need to get penicillin at least 4 hours before the delivery of my baby. And they say second children could go faster, so I'm kind of freaking out about timing of everything. So Ryan's like, why don't we just chat with the doula? Thank God we did, because we felt so much better afterwards. She was able to come over to our house and sit down and just chat with us for like 15-20 minutes. So she came over about 6:45. We just kind of talked through game plans. What if I go to the hospital now? What if I go to the hospital later? What happens when I get to the hospital? Just stuff like that. So really felt reassuring and felt good after she left our house around 7 p.m. that night. And pretty much as soon as she left our house, my contractions started. So when my contractions started, they were probably about 15-20 minutes apart, and they were very mild. It really just felt like period cramps, maybe a little more intense. So it was very mild, which maybe I had just been ignoring them and didn't realize that they had already started. I don't know. Originally my plan was to birth at home as long as possible until, you're 5 minutes apart, 3 minutes apart with the contractions. But like I mentioned, 1, my water broke, so now timing's a little iffy. 2, I'm Group B strep positive, so need to get antibiotics in my system. So with that, I was like, let's just wait a little bit longer until they're maybe closer to 10 minutes apart, and then we'll head to the hospital. So it gets to be around 8:15, 8:30, and they are about 10 minutes apart. So I'm like, all right, let's just get our stuff together, head to the hospital. So as we're driving there, they definitely start to decrease in time, 10 minutes apart, 8 minutes apart, 7 minutes apart. So it does start to pick up. I'm glad we left when we did. Got to the hospital around 8:45. They're increasing in intensity a little bit, but like still manageable. Which I'm happy the contractions did start because I just didn't want to be induced. So anyways, everything's working out. We got to the hospital about 8:45, 9-ish. Funny thing, because it was after hours, we did not know our way to labor and delivery at Bryn Mawr Hospital, and there was like no one at any of the help desks. So Ryan and I were literally walking through the hospital for like 10 minutes before we found someone who could direct us to labor and delivery. Finally, we found the floor, we got there. They were already ready and waiting for me because I had called them earlier to let them know that my water broke. So they were expecting me. They were like, here you go, here's your room. Got in there, just getting settled and everything. So we get situated in the room. I get in the gown. One of the first things they do is put the IV in me and administer my first dose of penicillin. Then they do the IV lock, so I'm not strapped to it the whole time. I can still get up and walk around right now at this point. And then probably about 9:45 is when they do the first cervical check. So at this point, I am about 2 to 3 centimeters dilated, 50% effaced, and baby is at -2 station, so still high up there in the pelvis, not really down low. So that's just kind of our baseline where we're starting from. So eventually they want to get the monitors on my belly to check for the baby's heart rate, and it monitors your contractions as well. Unfortunately, their wireless ones were not working, so I had to be in or around the bed, close enough that the wires could connect to the monitor. So I was totally fine up until around 11 p.m. The contractions really started to pick up. They were coming like almost every other minute for at least 45 seconds long. So it was like just really, really, really intense. And the pain was pretty bad at this point. Just felt like every time the contraction would happen, literally it was like ripping apart inside me. So that was really fun. So, I mean, I was trying to endure them the best I could, but again, I was pretty much strapped to the bed. Not super great for managing pain during contractions. I lasted for about 2 hours. Around 1 p.m., I was like dying. I looked at Ryan, I was like, where is the doula? I can't do this anymore. I was like freaking out. I was like crying. It was like, it got really, really bad. So at this point I was like, have them check me again. I need to know like if I had made any progress in that time. So when they check me again around 1 p.m., I am about 4 to 5 centimeters, still 50% effaced and still -2 station. So like a little bit of progress, but not much. So I was like, there's no way I can make it the rest of the way with nothing. So I said, get me that epidural. So typically the doula will arrive when you're in active labor around 6 centimeters. And I think Ryan was waiting for that specific 6 centimeter number to pop up before he called the doula. And I was like, you better call her now. I was just at the point where I could not endure anymore. So he did call the doula. He also told them I would like the epidural. So everything was getting ready, getting situated for that. I was still dealing with these crazy contractions. My body could not rest. I had terrible labor shakes, like in between contractions. I was just convulsing and shaking, and my body could not relax. So about 1:30 p.m., epidural was placed. I laid down in bed to let it do its thing. And then about 10 minutes later, the doula got there. So shortly after that, I finally felt relief. My body could relax. Thank God, because literally at 2:40 a.m., so this is like 70 minutes later, after the epidural, I got to 10 centimeters, 100% effaced, and baby was now at +1 station, which is good. That means she's moving down in the pelvis. So an epidural can really be a great tool. I don't think you should ever totally rule it out. It allowed my body to relax and just fully dilate and get ready to deliver this baby. So because I was 10 centimeters, fully effaced, baby was moving down in the pelvis, it was time to start pushing. So we had my nurse in there, my doula, they were both helping me with my legs. Ryan stayed up in my head, lucky him. But we started pushing. We tried a couple different positions. Just know that you can still push in different positions, even if you have an epidural. You probably just need a little bit of assistance. So we're pushing. The OB comes in, checks the progress, and she recommends we stop pushing after about 45 minutes to an hour later. because the baby's head is asynclitic, which means the baby's still head down, it's just their head is tilted towards the shoulder, so not totally in line with the birth canal, which would just make it harder to keep trying to push her out. So we paused pushing, and they recommended trying extended side lying positions to get that baby's head aligned with the birth canal again, so we can resume pushing. So after we stopped pushing, a couple things happened. We're taking some time to regroup. One, I threw up. Two, my epidural started to wear off on my left side, so I was like fully feeling the contractions just on the left. And three, my blood pressure dropped. So a little bit crazy after that first hour of pushing. Luckily, I just threw up once, no big deal. Last time I threw up a ton. After I threw up, I had some electrolytes. I ate a little bit so I would have something in my body to give me energy to push again later. So I had a popsicle and then some graham crackers. Nurses came in, gave me ephedrine for my low blood pressure. Low blood pressure is easier to treat than high blood pressure. Last time I had high blood pressure, so this was at least a better way to go. Blood pressure came back up, increased the epidural so it would kick in on my left side, and then we started these different positions to help readjust the baby. So we were doing extended side lying, which was actually pretty comfortable, just kind of like laying on my side, my top leg really draped far over. This is one of the positions in the Miles circuit that I had done before, so I was comfortable with it. It felt fine. So side lying on one side for about 30 minutes, other side for about 30 minutes, then using the peanut ball to put under my one leg to shift my hips a little bit, did that. So I was just kind of really, luckily, relaxing because I had the epidural, but also helping that baby readjust and get back into position. So at about 5:20 a.m., like, we were ready to start pushing again. Baby was lined up, everything was looking good, and I was like, all right, this time I am just determined to get this baby out. Like, this is it, round 2. All right, so we're pushing, again, trying a couple different positions. I was like really feeling the need to push on my side. So we did it, turned to my one side, was pushing there, and that really, really helped move the baby out a little more. And then finally, at 6:08 a.m., baby Kayleigh was born. So that was probably about 40-45 minutes of pushing for round 2. So overall, a little less than 2 hours of pushing total, but it was really nice that it was broken up so I could regroup, get some energy back in me, help realign the baby. And she was born at 6:08 a.m. And then 4 minutes later, placenta was delivered. She was immediately placed on my chest. We had requested first full hour of just skin to skin with me and the baby and my husband, so that they would delay taking any of the measurements like weight, height, whatever. So yeah, after that, it was kind of just me, Ryan, the baby, and the doula in the room. The doula took a bunch of pictures of us. That's the ones that I have shared so far, which was really nice. And yeah, we just enjoyed that first hour with us and the baby, just snuggling, getting to see her, which is crazy because we did not have anything like that the first time. Rory was immediately taken to the NICU. So this was kind of just like a totally different experience. And overall, like, so much better than last time. I felt in control. I felt like I was present and aware and there. I knew what was going on. Just everything about it was like, I mean, obviously labor, it's hard, it sucks. But it was just pretty much what I was hoping for out of this round 2 experience. So it was really awesome. I am happy to answer any questions anyone has about doulas, labor process, things you can request, stuff like that. But yeah, that is our story. I did not have any tears, so no stitching down there, which is great. I also didn't have them with Rory, and I think that's just because pushing with both of them was kind of a longer time, so I guess it allowed me to just stretch while they were hanging out in the birth canal. So yeah, no tears, no stitching, which is really nice for recovery for me. Yeah, and everything looked good. Kayleigh weighed 7 pounds and 0.4 ounces, so we're just calling it 7 pounds and 20 inches long. and we think she has blue eyes. It's still hard to tell because they're very dark. And her hair, TBD, we're not sure. She's almost a little bit bald now, but so that is our full birth story. I hope you enjoyed it. I love hearing birth stories, so if anyone wants to share theirs with me, I'm all ears. Let me know.